The protagonist is Lao Li, a retired worker whose wife is suffering from a terminal illness. In order to treat his wife's uremia, he spends all his savings. At the moment of his wife's death, he complains that Lao Li spends money recklessly and that treating her illness is meaningless. His son works far away in the northwest and is a complete vampire. I even want money to treat my mother's illness and refuse to see my wife for the last time in this life. Old Li will travel through time and pass. I cannot let my wife suffer any more injustice. I do not regret this life, I want to make you live a better life. Chapter 1. Life can be redone. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The sky was gray, and suddenly a bolt of lightning struck. Bayan People's Hospital Li Qingsong is 59 years old this year, and his body, which was originally weighing over 100 pounds, has only recently weighed less than 80 pounds. Li Qingsong stood at the end of the hospital corridor and received a call from his son. Hello. Dad, you can use the 100,000 yuan at home for me. Your daughter.in.law is interested in a new car. On the other end of the phone was his son Li Hong, who works in a factory in northwest China. Your mother. Li Qingsong couldn't help but choke. He didn't want to say anything, but in the end, he spoke up, that 100,000 yuan is your mother's life-saving money. Do you want it all? The other end of the phone paused for a few seconds. Dad, my mom's illness is terminal, why not? Are you talking in human language? Li Qingsong hung up the phone decisively, looking at the sparse raindrops outside the window, his heart filled with helplessness and despair. Li Qingsong's phone kept ringing incessantly, repeating the golden melody of the Phoenix legend. The family members in several wards all stretched out their heads to watch. The old lady shook her head and said, "TSK, this child from this family is really a beast." Li Qingsong returned to the ward and wiped the cold sweat on his wife's forehead with his rough hands. The waves on the drip monitor keep rolling. My wife Qiaodong lay quietly on the hospital bed, covered in plastic stickers, and Li Qingsong didn't know what that thing was called. Wife's late-stage uremia leads to severe heart failure, making it difficult to eat. Uncle Li, come with me. Attending physician Shen Yi handed over today's blood test report. Uncle, this is Auntie's physical examination report today, the situation is very bad. Shen Yi's face turned pale, he knew that this family was quite miserable. Li Qingsong's eyesight is not very good, and he looked at the list carefully. Dr. Shen, how long can my wife live? The long sound of the machine shattered the silence, which was the sound of the life monitoring device in my wife's ward. Every beep sounded like death urging him, telling him that time was running out. Uncle, I'm not hiding from you. Auntie must go to the ICU now, but the cost there is very high. It costs about 10,000 yuan per day, right? Li Qingsong tightly held the medical expense bill in his hand, and the numbers on it made him feel deeply powerless. He glanced at the message sent by his son on his phone screen and said, Dad, if you don't remit money, I will sever the father-son relationship with you. He took a deep breath and turned to stand next to his wife. My wife's face is pale, her eye sockets are sunken, but her body is severely swollen. She gently grasped old Li's hand and smiled, saying, Don't worry, I will get better. Li Qingsong suppressed his tears and nodded. He knew that it was just a lie told by his wife to comfort him. In the late stage of uremia, there is little hope left. Dr. Shen, let's treat him. I'll go pay now. For the sake of my old companion, I'm willing to pay any amount of money. I'll also treat him by selling houses and land. Li Qingsong suddenly stood up and looked firmly at Shen Yi. Don't listen to him, what's the cure? We only have so little money at home, leave it for our son. His wife Qiaodong used her last bit of strength to grab Li Qingsong's wrist. The life monitoring device made another sound, this time even more urgent. Qiaodong was panting heavily due to her excessive movements just now. Old Li tightly grasped his wife's hand. Shen Yi shouted, Nurse, nurse, defibrillator, defibrillator. Li Qingsong tightly grasped his wife's hand, as if this could give her strength. But the passing of life is beyond his control. Drip. There is only a white line left on the monitor, and his wife Zhang has passed away forever. The entrance was filled with onlookers, and the nurse shouted, "Get out of here, get out of here." The nurse held the defibrillator in her hand and stood there motionless. Shani quickly lifted Zhang eyelids and her dark gray pupils began to roll upwards. Shani shouted, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and bring it. Bring it." Bang bang bang, the defibrillator kept trembling in Zhang chest, and Shani wanted to snatch her back from the hands of the Grim Reaper. Li Qingsong gritted his teeth and said, "Old companion, hold on. Wake up. Let's go to the ICU, let's treat the illness." It was time to come, and the nurse began to tidy up the equipment in front of the hospital bed. Zhang covered her head with a white cloth and was pushed into the processing room. Some timid patients quickly left, afraid of inhaling the breath. Li Qingsong sat silently beside his wife, as if the air had frozen. "Uncle Li, Dr. Shen asked you to obtain a death certificate." The little nurse lightly patted old Li's shoulder. "Oh." Li Qingsong felt his body empty, his lower body floating, and he almost fell when he didn't stand firm. My son's phone rang again, and Li Qingsong shouted at the phone, "Your mother is gone, are you satisfied now? You bastard." "My mom, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with him?" came crying over the phone, "Dad, Dad, Dad. What's wrong with my mom?" The phone fell to the ground with a thud. Li Qingsong walked towards the doctor's office with lifeless eyes. For the first time in his life, he felt that this road was so difficult to walk, and it was rare for anyone to give him a hand. A dazzling light shone in from outside the window, it was lightning, and the end of the hospital hallway light was shining with white light. The white light was filled with the past of most of his life, including the hardships of work, the joy of marriage, and the joy of the family during the Chinese New Year. But reality turned them into nothingness. This road is very long. Li Qingsong doesn't know how far he has walked, but he just feels that the road is very long. Li Qingsong, Li Qingsong. Who is calling me? Why is there a slight pain in the back? A voice echoed in his mind, "Go back to the past, change your destiny, you still have one more chance." Old Li suddenly sat up, and the gray-haired old lady was holding a ruler. "Sleep in class, if you want to sleep, go home and sleep." I discovered that I had returned to the age of 17. He looked around, everything seemed so familiar and distant. Is this his high school teacher? That place full of memories. Did I really travel through time? Li Qingsong pinched his wrist hard. Oh, it hurts so much. The classmate who was watching the joke burst out laughing, "Haha, oh my, Li Qingsong shouldn't be foolish, right? My heart is filled with joy. He doesn't know how to face this sudden opportunity, but he knows he can't waste it." He decided to change his fate, not only for his own future, but also for his wife who was about to leave him. He took a deep breath and stood up, "Teacher Wang, I was wrong." The old lady couldn't believe that this sentence came from such a mischievous mouth, and couldn't help but rub her eyes. "What are you saying? Say it again." "I said I was wrong, teacher. I won't sleep in class anymore." Li Qingsong looked up at the portrait of a great man on the podium, and at this moment he wanted to start over. Chapter 2. Li Qingsong's family situation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After school, Li Qingsong put on his backpack and looked relaxed after a long time. In the past era, being able to attend high school was already considered a high education. In this life, we must seize the opportunity, and the future direction is entirely under his control. Grain and Oil Processing Factory is the only grain and oil processing enterprise in Bayan City, with over 1,200 workers. In the early 1970s, it was considered the most profitable enterprise in Bayan City. Li Qingsong's family lives in the family courtyard of a grain and oil processing factory. In fact, there are only 6 rows of houses, with bumpy and muddy roads. Lao Li's family is located in the middle of the first row of the family courtyard, with a family of 8 people. There are 2 older sisters and 2 younger sisters on top and 2 younger sisters on the bottom. The family is squeezed into a 50 square meter brick house and even has a 30 square meter small courtyard. At that time, living in a brick house was already quite good treatment. My mother was sitting at the doorstep selling popsicles. At this time, it was the time when school was over. In that era, only state-owned businesses were allowed, and setting up stalls without permission was not allowed. Because my father had some mental problems, the family's financial resources were almost cut off. My mother Qin Shulan went to the factory several times to cause trouble, and the factory turned a blind eye. "Old son, go and deliver food to your dad." Mother handed over 2 aluminum lunch boxes. "The ones on top are your dad's, and the ones below are your brother's. Take advantage of the heat and deliver them as soon as possible." Li Qiaodong, the 3rd child in his family, has not been fond of studying since childhood because his elder sister who is going to the countryside wants to return to the city. Both of them are vying for this spot, so he has not been able to take over his father's class for a long time. Li Qiaodong is currently an unemployed youth who unloads soybeans at an oil factory. He earns 1.2 yuan per month, although it is meager, it can still support his family. Li Qingsong looked at the popsicle in the foam box without much thought. He turned and left. He knew that even if he wanted to eat it, he would not have his share. "Auntie, give me 2 ice hockey sticks." Qiaodong, a chubby boy in his teens, wore a brand new school uniform and handed over 2 cents. The chubby boy is Qiaodong, the son of Qiaodong, the workshop director of the grain and oil processing factory, and his mother is an accountant in the factory. "Here, fat man, pick 2 big ones for you." Mother picked out the 2 biggest ones in the foam box. Qiaodong licked the popsicle and said, "Let's go, auntie." "Hey, slow down, child." Mother saw that Li Qingsong hadn't left yet. "What are you looking at? Why don't you go?" Li Qingsong looked at the foam box and couldn't help licking his tongue. Li Qingsong walked on a muddy path, and these were the most difficult years of their family's life. The eldest sister went to the countryside and cried out to come back. My second sister is not picky about her fate and was assigned to Yongquan Township, which is not far from Bayan City. The food and drink there are quite good. Big brother is quite hardworking, having to work in the loading and unloading workshop for more than 10 hours every day. "Big brother, I left my food here." Li Qingsong looked at the busy big brother on the loading and unloading platform and placed the lunch box on the steps. "Hey, I got it. Did you bring food to dad?" The big brother was using an iron fork to unload the beans from the 4-wheel truck. "No, I'll go bring my dad food first." Slow down the road. At the neurological hospital in Bayan City, my father was sitting on the windowsill looking at the withered and yellow old tree, cursing and cursing, "MD, steal my drawings. You've become the director. Dad, it's time for dinner." Father Li Shuangquan's consciousness has almost recovered. Speaking of his father, he was considered a wealthy family in that era. Later, due to the sports of that year, he had to choose to leave his hometown. Due to his high level of education, he was very popular with the factory director and was assigned to work in the laboratory. My father, who was beaten in mahjong, loves to drink alcohol. When he has free time, he would invite a few friends to have a drink. My father is introverted and only likes to think about things. He has proposed many plans for the factory and is highly appreciated by his superiors. It was precisely because of this drink that he went crazy for several years. My father studied for 2 years and designed a set of cold and hot water circulation technology, and all the drawings were drawn. I don't know what magic that drink had, but he, who has always been introverted, actually showed the design drawings to his friends on the table. The blueprint was missed by his father's good friend Sun Fu, who stole it after drinking. This guy didn't dare to delay and sent the blueprint to the factory director's house overnight. Sun Fu received recognition from the municipal government for this and was transferred to the power plant as the workshop director. When my father learned about this, he vomited old blood and went crazy to this day. Hey, old son. Father sat on the bed, now recognizing everyone in the monastic family, but his expression was still dull as he looked at him. Li Qingsong sat across from him, took out his homework book from his backpack, and began to do his homework. My father approached me and said, reading 100 times, its meaning is self-evident. He pointed to Li Qingsong's homework book, those who know are not as good as those who are good, and those who are good are not as good as those who are happy. At that time, these words were not allowed to be spoken recklessly, but who could help but go crazy? Li Qingsong was always curious about why his father could speak ancient Chinese, and it took many years to learn from his grandfather. In his past memories, Li Qingsong simply spent 3 days fishing and 2 days sunbathing, without taking his studies to heart. It wasn't until his older brother gave him the job and entered the system that he realized how important knowledge really was. After dinner, my father lay in bed, still cursing and unable to accept the reality of his achievements being taken away. Li Qingsong finished his homework and put the lunch box into his backpack. Dad, I'm back now. Don't think too much about it here. Hurry up and go home as soon as possible. I know my old son, Father Li Shuangquan spoke forcefully, but his mouth remained swearing. Li Shuangquan, it's time to take the medicine. The nurse aunt pushed the car into the ward. Oh, kid, you haven't left yet. It's already dark. Nurse auntie, Li Qingsong only knows his surname Zheng. He is less than 40 years old and is quite well behaved. He sympathizes with his father's plight and takes extra care of him. Aunt Zheng, when do you finish work? I'll take you back. Li Qingsong blinked and agreed. Oh, you're such a sweet-mouthed kid. Auntie doesn't need you to give it to me. My buddy, husband, will come pick me up later. It's already dark outside, and the clock at the neurology hospital shows it's already 8 p.m. By this time, it's already dark and winter is about to begin. The autumn breeze is particularly cold. Li Qingsong shuddered and said, it's really cold. It's okay, I'm full of energy. He suddenly wanted to go and see his wife Zhang Wan. He vaguely remembered that his wife's house lived next to the railway, and since it's not far, he happened to go and take a look. He was already itching uncontrollably and urgently wanted to see his wife, even if it caused chaos in time and space. He had to go see her tonight, so he bravely rushed to his wife's house. Zhang Wan's family is located next to the railway, and his wife's family was considered wealthy when she was young. Her father-in-law and mother-in-law were both workers in a linen factory, and when they returned home from work, they would make some brooms. There was also nearly a pound of land at home for growing vegetables, which was enviable by many families at that time. Li Qingsong stood on tiptoe outside the wall, while his future father-in-law was sitting at the table drinking, and his mother-in-law was sweeping the yard. Hey! Where is Zhang Wan? Chapter 3. Embarrassing first encounter with future father-in-law. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Li Qingsong stood outside the walls of the Zhang family courtyard, feeling uneasy. He heard that Zhang Wan lived here, so he came over to sneak a peek, hoping to catch a glimpse of his future wife's beauty. However, he did not expect that this action would cause big trouble. Hey! What are you doing? Are you a thief? A loud shout came, and Li Qingsong was startled. He turned his head and saw a middle-aged woman staring at him, holding a broom in her hand. It was Zhang Wan's mother, his future mother-in-law. Li Qingsong suddenly panicked and stuttered, I'm not a thief, I heard that your family sells brooms and wants to buy one. Buy a broom. His mother-in-law looked at him with a skeptical expression on her face. Why don't you come in and buy it? Why are you standing sneakily outside the wall? I'm a bit shy, Li Qingsong made up a lame excuse. At this moment, Zhang Wan's father also walked out upon hearing the sound. He immediately became furious at Li Qingsong's suspicious appearance and chased after him with a rolling pin from the corner of the wall. Little rabbit, dare to come to my house to steal something. The father-in-law cursed and chased after him. Li Qingsong saw something bad and ran away. But the father-in-law, after all, was a frequent worker with a strong physique, and quickly caught up with him, grabbing his collar. Uncle, you misunderstood. I really came to buy a broom, Li Qingsong explained helplessly. Buy a broom. All right, I'll trust you when you come up with the money, said the father-in-law angrily. Li Qingsong touched his pocket and found only 1 penny inside. This is the pocket money he has saved up for half a year, originally intended to buy candy to eat. But now in order to escape, he had to grit his head and take it out. Uncle, I only have 1 cent left. Do you think you can sell me a broom? Li Qingsong said pitifully. The father-in-law looked at the penny in his hand for a moment, then laughed heartily. You're really interesting. You want to buy my broom for every penny. But for your honesty, I'll sell you 1. After speaking, he turned around and returned to the room, taking out a worn-out broom and handing it to Li Qingsong. Li Qingsong took the broom and felt mixed feelings in his heart. He didn't expect to see his future mother-in-law and father-in-law for the first time in this way, and he was even mistaken for a thief. At this moment, Zhang Wan's second sister also walked out upon hearing the sound. Aunt Air is completely a person of temperament. If she can't stand it, she just takes action and loudly asks, what's going on? There's a thief at home. Li Qingsong suddenly felt embarrassed, wanting to explain but not knowing where to start. I didn't expect that the first meeting with my future father-in-law and mother-in-law might not leave a good impression in the future. Under the escort of his father-in-law, Li Qingsong stepped into the front door of the Zhang family. His heart was beating like a drum, half out of nervousness and half out of anticipation. Finally, he was about to see his future wife Zhang Wan. The broom is in the warehouse, come with me, the father-in-law said unhappily, leading Li Qingsong towards the warehouse. Li Qingsong followed his father-in-law, but his eyes unconsciously looked around. He looked through the window of the warehouse and saw the scene inside. A young girl was sitting on the Kong, doing her homework seriously, and the sunlight was shining on her face, appearing so peaceful and beautiful. That is his future wife Zhang Wan. On the ground, a little girl about 6 years old was happily riding a wooden horse, giggling. That is his sister-in-law, the future sister-in-law. Seeing this scene, Li Qingsong's heart surged with an inexplicable emotion. He seemed to see the happy life of the future and the scene of himself and Zhang Wan fighting together for this family. However, at this moment, he felt 2 sharp gazes fall on him. He turned his head and saw his father-in-law and mother-in-law staring closely at him, their faces full of vigilance and scrutiny. Li Qingsong felt a thump in his heart, muttering to himself that it was not good. He finally realized that his previous actions might have caused another misunderstanding. He quickly withdrew his gaze and calmly followed his father-in-law towards the warehouse. The broom is over there, you can pick it yourself, the father-in-law pointed to a pile of brooms in the corner. Li Qingsong dares not choose too much, just take a handful and prepare to pay. He took out the penny and handed it to his father-in-law. The father-in-law has received the money. The corners of his mouth twitched, his expression very disdainful. But he still turned around to find a tattered paper bag, wrapped the broom well, and handed it to Li Qingsong. Li Qingsong took the broom and breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. He can finally leave this place that makes him feel on pins and needles. However, just as he was about to bid farewell, his mother-in-law suddenly spoke up. "Young man, I don't think you're here to buy a broom, but rather to steal something. I tell you, our family is not easy to mess with. If you dare to cause trouble again, don't blame me for being impolite." The father-in-law has a hot temper and always sticks to the fire, and he is well aware of this. Upon hearing these words, Qingsong was so frightened that he almost didn't kneel down. He quickly explained that he really came to buy a broom and had no intention of peeping. But the mother-in-law clearly didn't believe his nonsense, snorted coldly and ignored him. Qingsong sighed helplessly, knowing that he had really left a misunderstanding for his future mother. In-law this time. He had no choice but to leave the Zhang family in a disheveled manner, secretly swearing to himself. He must behave well next time we meet again. Song left the Zhang family and walked on the road with mixed emotions. He was still immersed in the awkward scene just now, and the vigilant gaze of his father-in-law and mother-in-law made him feel like he was wearing a light on his back. "Ah, this time it's really embarrassing," Qingsong sighed to himself. Just then, a commotion came from ahead. Qingsong looked up and saw several children surrounding a thin and small boy, seemingly competing for something. He walked over curiously, wanting to see what was going on. "I saw those few children one by one, fierce and evil, trying to snatch $1 from the thin little boy's pocket. In that era, 1 yuan was a considerable amount that was enough to make children envious." The thin little boy tightly protected the money in his pocket, with a frightened and helpless expression on his face. He is obviously not a match for those children and can only be at their mercy. Seeing this scene, Qingsong's sense of justice immediately surged in his heart. He remembered being bullied when he was a child, and the feeling of helplessness and fear that he still remembers. He cannot let this thin little boy experience the same pain again. So he stood up and shouted loudly, "Stop it." The children were startled by his voice, and when they turned around, they saw a young man about their age standing there, his eyes fixed firmly on them. "What are you? Dare to meddle in our affairs?" One of the children said fiercely. "When you see injustice on the road, pull out your sword to help. I can't bear to see you bullying the weak like this." Qingsong said with a righteous tone. "Humph, mind your own business. Brothers, go up." Another child gave the order, and a few people rushed towards Qingsong. Chapter 4. Uncle Wang's Peach Crisp Gift Box. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although Qingsong is not physically strong, he has a strong determination not to give up. He waved his arms and started fighting with those children. But after all, his 2 fists were unbeatable with 4 hands, and he quickly fell behind. The thin little boy took the opportunity to break free from his constraints and wanted to escape. But one of the children was quick-witted and grabbed his collar. The thin little boy struggled a few times but couldn't break free. Qingsong saw that the situation was not good, so he quickly rushed over to rescue the thin little boy. But he was tightly embraced by several other children, unable to move. "Kill him. Let him meddle in his own business," one of the children said fiercely. Qingsong felt a sharp pain coming, and he knew that he might have had more or less bad luck this time. But he did not give up struggling and resisting. He exerted all his strength to break free from the shackles of those few children, and then suddenly pushed away the child who was grabbing the thin little boy. "Run quickly!" Qingsong shouted loudly. The thin little boy woke up from a dream and ran away. The children wanted to chase after them, but Qingsong stubbornly blocked their way. "Want to chase him? Let's pass my level first before we talk," Qingsong said fearlessly. Those children were intimidated by his aura and dared not approach for a moment. After escaping from the help of Qingsong, the thin little boy stumbled all the way back home. His parents noticed something was wrong when they saw him panting heavily and his face full of fear. "Child, what's wrong with you?" the thin boy's father asked nervously. Dad and Mom, I was surrounded by a few boys just now who wanted to steal my $1, the skinny little boy said with a crying voice. Fortunately, there was an older brother who helped me, otherwise I might not be able to come back. Upon hearing this, the mother of the skinny little boy, also known as Aunt Zheng, a nurse at the neurological hospital, immediately stood up nervously and said, "Where is the child now? Is he okay?" "I don't know, he was surrounded by those boys to let me run first," the thin little boy said with tearful eyes. Aunt Zheng and her husband exchanged a glance, both seeing the worries and anger in each other's eyes. They know that their children were able to return safely thanks to the young man who acted bravely. And now, that young man is likely facing danger. Let's go find him. Aunt Zheng's husband said decisively. So the couple immediately went out and searched along the path of the thin little boy's home. Soon, they noticed a group of people not far ahead, seemingly watching something. The couple walked over quickly, and Aunt Zheng's husband shouted, "Stop it. I saw a young man lying in the crowd covered in injuries, and it was Li Qingsong. The boys who bullied the skinny little boy are nowhere to be seen, obviously running away in the face of adversity. Quickly, take him to our house and I'll treat his wound," Aunt Zheng said, carefully lifting Li Qingsong up with her husband. At Aunt Zheng's house, she skillfully treated Li Qingsong's wound, and Li Qingsong finally woke up. He saw that the wound on his body had been treated properly, and his gratitude was indescribable. "Thank you, if you hadn't arrived in time, I would probably have." Li Qingsong choked up. "Child, don't say that. It's you who helped our child first that we should be grateful to you." Aunt Zheng said gently, "Child, don't leave tonight and stay at Aunt's house. Aunt will stew some big bone soup for you to nourish your body." Li Qingsong propped himself up and said, "Farewell to Aunt Zheng. It was fate for both of us to be able to save Aunt Zheng's son. It's too late, I have to go home, otherwise my mother should worry." Aunt Zheng saw that the child was struggling to get up. "Old Wang, you can take Qingsong home." Li Qingsong was given a brand new Santana 2000 sedan. In that era, there were not many sedans in a city, and most people dared to dream about it. In the car, Li Qingsong and Uncle Wang started talking. Uncle Wang doesn't say much, but every sentence exudes warmth and concern. When Li Qingsong learned that Uncle Wang was working in the government, he couldn't help but show him a little more respect. However, Uncle Wang did not mention his specific job, and Li Qingsong did not ask much. Quickly, the car stopped at Li Qingsong's doorstep. Li Qingsong got off the car and saw his mother holding her little daughter Li Xiaoxiao in the room, coaxing her to sleep. Big brother Li Qinyong disappeared without a trace. He knew that his elder brother must have gone out to search for him, seeing that he had not returned yet. At this moment, Li Qinyong hurriedly returned. Seeing his younger brother return safely, he breathed a sigh of relief, but then straightened his face and said, "Where did you go, kid? It made it difficult for me to find him for a while." Seeing his younger brother covered in injuries, his temper suddenly rose. "Brother, who bullied you? Tell big brother." Upon seeing this, Li Qingsong quickly told his elder brother about the situation. After hearing this, Li Qinyong couldn't help but give a thumbs up to Li Qingsong and said, "Good job. You didn't embarrass our Li family." At this moment, Uncle Wang also walked over and expressed his gratitude to Li Qingsong's mother. "Sister, thank you very much for teaching such a good child. Our family said that when Qingsong's injury is completely healed, we must invite him to our house as a guest." After saying that, he took out a box of exquisite cakes from the car and handed them to Li Qingsong's mother. "Sister, this is our family's heart. Please accept it." Upon seeing this, Li Qingsong's mother quickly declined and said, "Oh my, that's not possible. Your family has already been very helpful to us, how can we still accept your gift?" But Uncle Wang insisted on giving it, so Li Qingsong's mother had to accept this heavy gift. "Then I won't hesitate to accept it. This is not just a box of pastries, but also our gratitude to your family," Uncle Wang expressed his gratitude both inside and outside of his words. After chatting for a moment, he politely left. The box of pastries was carefully placed by the mother on the only table in the room. Old-style peach pastries, chongbai cakes, and roasted fruits. These rare delicacies that are rarely seen in daily life are now emitting a tempting aroma, arousing children's cravings. Big brother Li Qiaodong, Li Qingsong, third sister Li Qingman, and little sister Li Xiaoxiao sat around the table, their eyes fixed on the box of pastries, and saliva involuntarily flowed from the corners of their mouths. "Mom, when can we eat?" Li Qiaodong couldn't help but ask. Mother smiled and affectionately touched his head, saying, "Let's eat together when your dad comes back." "But Dad won't be back for a long time," Li Xiaoxiao pouted. After hesitating for a moment, the mother looked at the eager eyes of the children and finally softened her heart. "Okay, then let's split it up and taste it," she said as she spoke. She opened the pastry box and distributed the pastries among the children one by one. Everyone got a piece of their favorite pastry, with a satisfied smile on their faces. However, Li Qingsong did not eat it. He handed his cake to his elder brother Li Qiaodong and said, "Brother, you can eat it." Li Qiaodong was taken aback and said, "Why don't you eat it?" Li Qingsong smiled and said, "I've tried it, you can eat it." There is a hint of bitterness hidden in his smile. Recalling the scene of my older brother leaving his hometown because he didn't take his father's job in his previous life, and recalling the difficult life of his family of 3 in the Northwest, my heart was filled with guilt and self-blame. He swore to change everything in his life and not let those things happen again. Chapter 5. Good and Bad Things Together. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next morning, the news spread that a brand new Santana 2000 had arrived at the doorstep of Lao Li's house yesterday, which caused a considerable sensation in the family courtyard of the oil factory. You should know that in that era, cars were rare objects, and most families didn't even see them a few times, not to mention owning them. Neighbors poked their heads out to look around, and voices of discussion kept coming and going. Aunt Zhang and Aunt Wang couldn't resist their curiosity and came directly to inquire about the news. "Is the sedan parked at the door of Lao Li's house yours last night?" Aunt Zhang asked with envy on her face. "Oh, no, no." The mother of the old Li family quickly waved her hand and explained. "Oh, so, your family has something to do with the big shots in the city." Aunt Wang widened her eyes, her tone full of surprise. At this moment, workshop director Qiaodong also rushed over upon hearing the sound. He pondered to himself. Does this old Li family have some amazing background in the city? This is a great opportunity to curry favor. So, Qiaodong changed into a smiling face and walked up to the mother of the Lao Li family, saying, "Your son really gave us the face of the oil factory leader yesterday, from the Lao Li family. He is a brave young man who acts for righteousness. On behalf of the workshop, I come to comfort you." My mother was somewhat bewildered by the sudden battle, but her heart was filled with more joy and pride. She knew that her son had done a great good thing. Li Qingsong stepped into the gate of Oil Factory High School as usual. But he quickly realized that the atmosphere today was somewhat different from usual. The gaze of his classmates seemed to always hover around him, with a hint of envy, curiosity, and even jealousy. Entering the classroom, the homeroom teacher greeted me with a smile on his face. "Qingsong, here you are. Have you had any difficulties in studying recently? Feel free to come to me for any questions you don't know." Li Qingsong was momentarily taken aback and then understood. It turned out that the news of his brave and righteous actions had already spread in school yesterday. He chuckled inwardly, but on the surface, he still respectfully accepted the homeroom teacher. Teachers from various subjects also walked over one after another, expressing their willingness to take good care of him. Li Qingsong understood in his heart that these teachers were not really concerned about his studies, but wanted to know what kind of people he had befriended and whether they could bring any benefits to the school. A middle-aged male teacher asked, "Qingsong, your family. Li Qingsong covered his stomach and said, "Oh, teacher, please let me know. I have a stomachache and need to go to the bathroom." He pretended to avoid these teachers' inquiries. He didn't expect Uncle Wang to have such great energy, even the homeroom teacher who always ignored him was so attentive. Returning to the classroom, several teachers were arranging seats, and Li Qingsong, who was originally sitting in the middle, was unexpectedly placed in the first row. A few students reluctantly emptied the books in Li Qingsong's desk. In class, Li Qingsong sat in the first row and was not used to it. He, who had always been raised in a free range, suddenly felt uncomfortable being taken care of like this. "Li Qingsong, can you solve this equation?" said a 50-year-old male math teacher yesterday's cramming textbook. I naturally grabbed the math teacher's questions and answered them fluently. The math teacher nodded in satisfaction. "Okay, the answer is very good. Everyone should learn more from Li Qingsong." Li Qingsong was very embarrassed, and Lin Xiaoyan, the most beautiful female classmate in the class, with a long ponytail, whispered, "Li Qingsong, why did the teachers suddenly treat you so well?" She was curious. Originally, her desk mate was the top student in the class, but suddenly she was replaced by Li Qingsong, who ranked average in the class. He didn't answer, just listened quietly. He didn't care about these things. Let them figure it out. His current task is not to be complacent because he did something good. His future tasks are still heavy. Until noon break, this time Li Qingsong really had a stomachache and wanted to go to the bathroom. Li Qingsong, who was squatting in the outdoor toilet, suddenly heard a gentle voice coming from the loudspeaker. "Attention all students, a notice is now being broadcasted. Li Qingsong, a student of our school, acted bravely on his way home yesterday and helped a bullied classmate. His behavior reflects the excellent school atmosphere of our oil factory high school and is a role model for all of us to learn from. In recognition of his brave behavior, the school has decided to award him the certificate of Act Bravely. The original break time exercises have turned into a performance event for Li Qingsong, with several excellent teachers taking the stage to express their personal emotions towards this act of bravery and righteousness. Now, please welcome Li Qingsong to come on stage and receive the award." Accompanied by enthusiastic applause, Li Qingsong was awkwardly called to the podium. The classmates turned their heads to look at Li Qingsong, their eyes filled with envy and admiration. But there are also some students who have a hint of jealousy in their eyes and are secretly dissatisfied. The principal presented a certificate of commendation to Li Qingsong. "Let's applaud for Li Qingsong's selfless dedication. We must take pride in him and set a better example for the school and classmates." As school was about to end, a group of thugs were blocking the school gate. It was the boys who bullied the skinny boys yesterday who, after learning from somewhere that Li Qingsong was actually studying at an oil factory school, decided to retaliate against him. They feel that they suffered a loss from Li Qingsong yesterday, and today they must find a place to repair him properly. So they agreed to go to the school gate to block Li Qingsong after school. The boy led by him, nicknamed Dapeng, is a small tyrant in this area. He has several followers under his command and often engages in bullying activities. The bell for the end of school rang, and Li Qingsong packed his backpack and walked out of the classroom. He had just walked to the school gate when he saw Dapeng and others waiting for him there. "Oh, isn't this yesterday's hero?" Dapeng walked up with a sneer, looking disdainful. Li Qingsong's heart tightened, but he knew he couldn't back down at this moment. He straightened his chest, ready to face the upcoming challenge. At this moment, a familiar figure suddenly rushed over, followed by several roars and the sound of fists and feet intersecting. Li Qingsong fixed his eyes and saw that it was his elder brother Li Qiaodong who arrived with a few surviving brothers. "You little kids, dare to touch my younger brother's hair, I'll make you look good." Li Qiaodong roared and punched Dapeng. Dapeng and others were disrupted by Li Qiaodong's sudden attack, but soon they reacted and began to engage in melee with Li Qiaodong and others. Both sides are coming and going, and the fight is difficult to distinguish. But Li Qiaodong is several years older than Peng and others, and he has been doing physical work for the past 3 years. He also knows a little bit of martial arts and can knock Peng to the ground with just one punch. Chapter 6. Qiaodong Vegetable Market. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the chaos, a burly man rushed out from beside Li Qiaodong and grabbed the collar of Peng, who had already been knocked down, and picked him up. This man is Wu Jiangwo, the elder brother of Li Qiaodong. The two of them are brothers and sisters. Upon learning that Li Qingsong, the younger brother of Li Qiaodong, is in trouble, he rushed to support him without hesitation. Peng was carried by Wu Jiangwo and couldn't catch his breath. He widened his eyes and looked at the angry man in front of him in terror. "Who are you? Who are you?" Peng stuttered. "I am Wu Jiangwo." Wu Jiangwo shouted sternly, "Li Qingsong is my brother's younger brother. If you dare to trouble him again in the future, I will break your legs." Upon hearing the 3 words, Wu Jiangwo, Peng's face immediately changed. He knew that Wu Jiangwo was a notorious and ruthless character in this area, and to be honest, those who provoked him had no good fate. "Wu. Brother Wu, we didn't know that Li Qingsong is your man. This time we are blind. Please show your respect and let us go this time." Peng quickly begged for mercy. "Humph, let you go. This time it's just a lesson for you, remember it for me in the future, don't cause trouble again," Wu Jiangwo said, pushing Peng away. Peng and a few accomplices quickly ran away, never daring to look back. Li Qiaodong walked over and patted Wu Jiangwo's shoulder, saying, "Brother, thank you very much. Brother Qiaodong, if you say this, you'll see it out loud. Qingsong's business is my business, and anyone who dares to bully him in the future will just have trouble with me, Wu Jiangwo." Wu Jiangwo said arrogantly. Peng and these few people usually play around. When they saw someone as stubborn as Wu Jiangwo, they couldn't help feeling a little low and ran out of the ground for 2 miles in one breath. "Today is really unlucky, how did you meet such a master?" The younger brother asked, "Big brother, is this all that matters?" Peng scolded and retorted, "What the hell, let's deal with this kid later and leave, today is Friday, tomorrow is a weekend, so the whole factory is on vacation. Li Qingsong naturally knows the purpose of their visit today." In the evening, the red glow on the horizon had not yet completely dissipated. Li Qiaodong, Wu Jiangwo, Zhang Jiqiang and 7 others had already ridden bicycles and embarked on the road to Qingsong. Their destination is Qingsong on the outskirts of the village, where they need potatoes, cabbage, and eggs. Along the way, they talked and laughed happily, discussing tonight's big plan. They plan to secretly purchase these agricultural and sideline products at Chen Laowil's house, and then ride overnight to the Nantou market in Bayan City to sell them. Although it may be risky to do so, they all think it's worth a try to earn some extra income. When we arrived at Qingsong, the sky had completely darkened. They cautiously arrived at Chen Laowil's house, afraid of being discovered by the team. Chen Laowil is an honest and upright farmer. When he saw them coming, he quickly welcomed them into the house. "Qiaodong, why did you come so late?" Chen Laowei asked. "Hee, Uncle Chen, we were thinking of coming to your place to buy some good things," Li Qiaodong replied with a smile. They have dealt with Chen Laowil several times, and he is very fair in his actions. After some bargaining, they finally bought the scallions, chili peppers, and eggs from Chen Laowil's family at a lower price. These agricultural products are carefully planted by Chen Laowil, with excellent quality. I believe they will definitely sell at a good price in the market. They hurriedly bid farewell to Chen Laowil, rode their bicycles, and embarked on the road back to Bayan City. In the darkness, their figures gradually drifted away, leaving only a series of crisp car bells. It was already late at night when we arrived at the southern market. 6 young people slept under the bridge in the southern market for a night. This underground bridge can be considered as the main place for private buying and selling back then. As long as you pay a management fee of 10 cents, you will be safe and sound. As the sky began to brighten, some vendors began to set up stalls selling a variety of things, including old clothes and pants, light bulbs and switches, and used magnetic tapes for sale, inedible corn noodles, red beans and mung beans. Even if you don't have money, you can still trade them for goods. They occupy the most prominent position. After all, squatting all night is not for nothing. The 6 of them put out potatoes, cabbage, and eggs. Soon, several buyers gathered around. "How do you sell these potatoes?" a middle-aged woman asked. 5 cents per kilogram. Look at this potato. It's so big and fresh. Li Qingsong enthusiastically replied. "Oh, it's a bit expensive, isn't it? Can it be cheaper?" The middle-aged woman began to bargain. "What you said, we brought it all the way from Qingsong. Look at the quality, it's definitely worth the price." Wu Jiangwo helped on the side. An old lady with white hair walked over trembling, leaning on a cane. She squinted her eyes and looked at the few remaining cabbage trees at the stall, then looked up and said to Li Qingsong, "Young man, how do you sell these scallions?" "Grandma, this scallion costs 2 cents per kilogram, it's very cheap," Li Qingsong quickly replied. The old lady shook her head and said, "It's too expensive, too expensive. Last time I bought it elsewhere, I only paid 1 cent per kilogram." At this moment, a chubby middle-aged woman also approached. She looked at the scallions, then at the old lady, and said to Li Qingsong, "Young man, give the old lady a discount. She's not easy either." Li Qingsong looked at the fat middle-aged woman and then at the old lady, feeling a bit hesitant in his heart. Although these scallions are not many, they have already sold for a good price, and it is a bit unwillingness to sell them at a cheaper price. Just then, another old lady with a child walked over. She was holding a child in one hand and carrying a basket in the other, looking like she was also here to buy groceries. She looked at the scallions on the stall and said to Li Qingsong, "These scallions are quite fresh. How much does it cost per kilogram?" Li Qingsong was about to answer and Li Qingsong suddenly came up with a plan. He said to the 3 customers, "All right, let's play a little game. You 3 bid together, and whoever offers the highest will have the cabbage. However, the bid cannot exceed my bottom price, which is 2 cents per kilogram." Li Qingsong looked at them and knew in his heart that all 3 of them wanted scallions. Now, every family is preparing autumn vegetables, and they are all radishes and cabbage. Eating them all winter long. The old lady with the child clearly wants more, 2 parts, 2 parts. "I'm coming, you weigh me tall." The old lady happily paid the money and then left holding the child's hand. The old lady and the chubby middle-aged woman shook their heads in disappointment and turned towards other stalls. Li Qingsong and the 6 of them couldn't help but laugh as they watched this scene. Big brother Li Qingsong's eyes were full of thieves, and he immediately saw several blue clothes walking down the stairs of the bridge. Let's go, hurry up. 6 brothers, quickly pack up the silk bags for vegetables, ride your bike, and run." The Qiaodong vegetable market became a mess, and a large group of blue clothes rushed from all directions. Chapter 7. Reward of 4 yuan. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. The figures of 8 people shuttle rapidly along the path. They were riding their bicycles wildly, as if racing against time. Not far behind them, a group of figures wearing blue clothes can be faintly seen chasing after. That's a member of the battalion. Once caught, it's not about confiscating them. Finally, they arrived at an abandoned residential house and the 8 quickly hid inside. The house was pitch black, and it seemed that no one had lived in it for a long time. But their emotions were unusually excited. Li Qingsong squatted on the ground and used the light outside to check the money. Paper money and coins flipped through his hands one by one, finally settling on a number of 18.67 cents. Brothers, we earned 18.67 cents tonight. Li Qingyong's voice was low, with excitement in his words. Upon hearing this number, everyone else cheered. They know that this 18.67 yuan is the result of their risky and hard work all night. Subsequently, Wu Jiangwo proposed a plan to divide the money. As the person who served the dishes, he spent 3 yuan on the capital, so he divided the large head into 5 yuan. Li Qingyong and Li Qingsong each take 2 yuan, the remaining money will be divided equally among Zhang Jiqiang, Wang Weiman, Lu Weidong, and Chen Lisan. They also have no objections to this plan. In that era, 1 yuan was already a considerable amount, enough for a family to live a good life for a few days. For these young people, this is a huge sum of money that allows them to buy things they usually don't want to buy. After gathering the remaining vegetables, there were about 20 pounds of potatoes, 40 pounds of cabbage, and some miscellaneous side dishes left. 7 people planned to divide them up. The Qiaodong market was a place where someone was in charge. Today, blue clothes came to arrest someone and received prior notice that something must have happened to the market manager. They dared not go to the market again, so they decided to divide all the remaining dishes among the 7 people. 7 people went their separate ways, because the old Li family only had 1 bicycle, so the elder brother Li Qingyong was responsible for riding the bike, and Li Qingsong was responsible for supporting the bike from behind to prevent the vegetables from falling off. Big brother Li Qingyong is obviously very happy today. If it weren't for Wu Jiangwo's 3 yuan, how could the 2 brothers have earned these 4 yuan? Big brother, what do you plan to do with this money? Li Qingsong asked from behind the car. Big brother was stunned when asked and thought for a moment, do you still need to ask? Of course it's for our mother. Li Qingsong said, Big brother, give me 1 yuan. Don't tell our mom, I can use this money. Returning to the family courtyard of the oil factory, one can smell the aroma of stewed meat from a long distance. Li Qingyong couldn't help but sigh, whose stewed meat is it? Why is it so fragrant? The greedy big brother licked his lips. In the kitchen at home, the fire is strong, and the stewed cabbage and tofu in the pot make a gurgling sound, with a fragrant aroma overflowing. The cabbage was stewed until it was soft and delicious, while the tofu was filled with the soup, making it smooth, tender, and delicious. After stewing, pork emits a tempting meat aroma, intertwined with the aroma of cabbage and tofu, making people drool. As soon as Li Qingsong entered the room, the aroma aroused his appetite. He saw his mother Qin Shulan standing in front of the stove, gently stirring the cabbage-stewed tofu in the pot with a spoon, with a satisfied and happy smile on her face. Mom, this meat and tofu are really delicious. Li Qingsong couldn't help but exclaim. Where are the tofu and meat from Mom's house? Li Qingyong looked up at the bubbling iron pot and couldn't help but swallow his saliva. Qin Shulan turned around and looked at her son with a smile, saying, if you're fragrant, eat more. This meat and tofu were specially given to you by workshop director Qiaodong, to commend your brave behavior. He said you're a good young man and asked everyone to learn from you. Upon hearing his mother's words, a warm current surged in Li Qingsong's heart. He knew that this honor was not only a personal recognition of him, but also a good thank you to Aunt Zheng and the others. At the dinner table, the family sat together, with happy smiles on everyone's faces. Qin Shulan picked up a piece of stewed pork and gently placed it in Li Xiaoxiao's bowl. Li Xiaoxiao widened her eyes and looked at the meat in the bowl, laughing happily. Her smile is like a blooming flower, bright and pure. Upon seeing this, Li Qingman, the third sister, pouted in dissatisfaction and coquettishly said, Mom is biased. She only gives Xiaoxiao meat, and I want it too. She reached out her chopsticks to pick the meat from the pot. Qin Shulan smiled and shook her head, then picked up a piece of meat and placed it in Li Qingman's bowl. She doted on her and said, You little greedy ghost, how could Mom forget you? Big brother Li Qingyong looked at the meat in the bowl, but did not move his chopsticks. He took a deep breath, as if wanting to keep this happy moment in his heart forever. He knew that the meat was hard-won, and he also knew that it was a symbol of family unity and mutual care. He wants to leave these meats for his younger siblings to eat, so that they can feel more warmth and happiness. Li Qingsong noticed that his elder brother did not eat meat, and his heart moved. He picked up a piece of stewed pork that was fat and thin, gently placed it in his big brother's bowl, and smiled, saying, "Big brother, you've worked hard. I'll give you this piece of meat to eat." Li Qingsong watched his younger brother's actions with a hint of emotion in his eyes. He knew it was a recognition of his brother's efforts, and this familial bond made him feel incredibly warm and satisfied. He smiled and nodded, then picked up the meat from the bowl and took a bite, savoring the taste and happiness of this place. The tranquility of the Li family was shattered by a letter from the post office. "Auntie Li, your family has sent a letter." The postman shouted towards the front door of the Li family. The letter was sent by the elder sister Li Qingyu. She expressed a strong desire to come back and take over the class in the letter. However, this has brought a challenge to this family. If someone comes back, it means someone must go to the countryside. Big brother Li Qingsong is the backbone of the family and the main labor force. He bears the heavy responsibility of supporting his family, whether it is buying groceries at home or carrying firewood at home every day. He cannot do without his presence. Li Qingsong is still studying at school and spoils his son very much. His family doesn't want him to interrupt his studies because of this. Third sister Li Qingman and Li are still young and need their mother's care. Li Qingsong looked at the text on the letter with mixed feelings in his heart. He knew that his elder sister had suffered a lot outside, and it was only natural for him to come back. However, he is also aware of his responsibilities as the eldest son in the family. If you go to this house yourself, you may fall into a crisis. After careful consideration, Li Qingsong said, "Mom, why don't I go to the countryside and exchange my elder sister? I'll be back in 2 or 3 years." This decision was opposed by my mother. Mother Qin Shulan has her own selfish intentions in her heart. She believes that her elder sister Li Qingyu will eventually get married, and she will always be an outsider. She doesn't want her older sister to take over this class, let alone Li Qingsong going to the countryside. Qin Shulan decisively rejected Li Qingsong's proposal, saying, "This family can't live without you. You can't go to the countryside. If Qingyu wants to come back, let her figure it out on her own. We can't sacrifice the interests of the entire family because of her personal affair." The originally warm family suddenly fell into bitterness. Chapter 8. Market, I have people. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The matter of the elder sister's letter was over, and the mother didn't reply to her. She pretended not to care, but often cried when no one was beating her. After all, it was her own flesh that fell off her body, and she didn't want to be so cruel. But how difficult it is at home now, she can't help it. The next day Li Qingsong carried the 1 yuan given to him by his elder brother, relying on his courage to think that he would go to his future father-in-law's house again. He rode his bicycle through the village and arrived at the home of his future father-in-law Zhang Deshan. He knew that this was a small step towards his own success, and also his first attempt to take care of his father-in-law and mother-in-law. Along the way, he had various fantasies, both good and bad, thinking through them all. How to deal with the father-in-law if he was angry, and how to deal with the father-in-law if he was unhappy. Unconsciously, Li Qingsong arrived at the door of his future father-in-law's house. The 2 or 8 large bars were a bit difficult to handle, so he rode in his crotch. When he arrived at the door, he forcefully squeezed the brakes with both hands and ran off with his legs crossed before stopping the car. "Yo, kid, are you here again? How was that broom used last time?" The future father-in-law was going out to pour out dirty water when he saw Li Qingsong riding his bike. Li Qingsong was speechless. He lost the broom on the day of the fight, and now he didn't know who had picked it up. So he smiled and replied, "Uncle, my mom said the broom is very useful. I think we should buy more this time." The father-in-law's eyes lit up as he heard, "Kid, how much do you want?" "Well, let's start with 40. Li Qingsong had such a keen eye and took the dirty bucket from Zhang Deshan's hand. "Uncle, I'll pour it for you, give it to me." He grabbed the dirty bucket. He was well aware that his father-in-law had followed this pattern in his previous life and was judged as someone who could be entrusted for life. This time, he married his wife Zhang Wan. At Zhang Deshan's house, Li Qingsong bought 40 brooms for 1 cent and 2 sticks. Although these brooms are ordinary, in Li Qingsong's eyes, they are the foundation for him and his future father-in-law to lay the first step. The future mother-in-law watched Li Qingsong leave with the 40 brooms on her back, her eyes flashing with a hint of vigilance and defense. She always felt that this kid had ulterior motives, but she had no evidence and always kept a certain distance from this young man. Li Qingsong paid no attention to this, as there were plenty of opportunities to conquer his mother-in-law in the future. The father-in-law tied the broom tightly to the car seat, tightening it again and again. "Li Qingsong, let's go, Uncle Zhang." Zhang Deshan waved his hand and said, "Ride your bike slowly, kid." My mother-in-law frowned and walked out. "Why do I always feel like this kid hasn't had a good heart coming to our house?" He couldn't go to the Qiaodong market anymore, so he strolled on the street. He was not sure where the market was, so he could only ride his bike aimlessly on the street. Riding to the back of the municipal party committee compound, Li Qingsong said, "This is pretty good. Why is it so lively here?" After observing for a while, he found that there were quite a few people strolling around the big event. The market was bustling with people and lively. There is really no place to set up a stall. So he crouched down on the aisle, lined up his broom in a row, quietly waiting for the arrival of the customer. In no time, an older brother walked over. He dressed plainly, but his eyes revealed shrewdness and competence. He looked at Li Qingsong's broom, then at him again, and smiled and said, "Young man, how do you sell this broom?" When Li Qingsong saw someone asking, he was overjoyed and quickly replied, "Big brother, the quality of this broom is absolutely guaranteed. If you want it, I'll give you a cheaper price." The big brother listened to Li Qingsong's words and smiled, saying, "The young man is quite good at doing business. All right, I want 20 pieces, you can give me a real price." Li Qingsong was even happier when he heard that he wanted 20 items. He hesitated for a moment and then offered a price, 5 cents a handful. "For cents is unlucky, why not give you 3 cents, big brother?" The big brother nodded and said, "Okay, that's the price. I'll give you 60 cents. Li Qingsong's heart was filled with excitement. This was 60 cents, the first bucket of gold in his life. Suddenly, someone patted her back and said, "Hey, who let you set up a stall here?" Li Qingsong felt like she was in trouble at the stall. Looking back, I saw the person in their 40s, with sparse and slightly bald hair, a strong beard, and wearing a dark gray cotton jacket. Their appearance was very simple. There is a red sleeve badge hanging on the arm, administrator. The middle-aged man looked simple but spoke extremely rudely, "What should I ask you? Who let you set up a stall here?" Li Qingsong dared to shout loudly, "My uncle's surname is Wang, my aunt's surname is Zheng." He hoped that these two life-saving straws could save him. The middle-aged man poked his chin with his finger and pondered for a moment, "My surname is Wang, my surname is Zheng. Let me think. Is it?" Unexpectedly, the middle-aged man suddenly seemed to have changed his personality, and his originally serious expression suddenly became more attentive. "Your uncle's surname is Wang. What is your relationship?" Li Qingsong and Uncle Wang have nothing to do with each other. They can only fabricate. Is this what you should inquire about? I advise you to inquire less. Hey, you're busy. No, you're busy. Li Qingsong finally breathed a sigh of relief. Unexpectedly, the blind cat met the dead mouse and even fell in love. People feel refreshed during happy events. The big brother who just bought the broom brought another person over and directly bought all the other brooms. Brother, you're so speechless with this broom, and my buddies want it too. We'll wrap it all up. The simple young man patted his chest. Li Qingsong can really meet benefactors everywhere, forcing the young man to give a 10-cent rebate. Big brother, please leave an address, and I'll go take a look at our mother at home another day. Young people rarely encounter such a cheerful person. Brother, my name is Su Liang, and I live in the government compound, Unit 2, Building 4, 502. Come and play at home when you have time. Big brother will make some dishes for you, let's have a drink together. Okay. Big brother, wait for me. I'll go if I have time in the next few days. Li Qingsong counted the money in his hand and he had already earned 1.1 yuan. This is the first time he has earned so much money. Thinking of his future father. In Lao Zhang Di Sunping, Li Qingsong decided to buy some gifts to visit him. He wandered around the market and ultimately chose a bottle of wine, spending 20 cents. Although this bottle of wine is not considered valuable, it is a token of his affection. Then, he bought half a pound of melon seeds and half a pound of peanuts, spending a total of 10 cents. He carefully wrapped these gifts and then embarked on the road to Zhang Deshun's house. When Li Qingsong handed the gift to Zhang Deshun, a hint of surprise flashed in the old man's eyes. Kid, what do you mean by this? Uncle, thanks to you and my aunt, I earned 60 cents today. Li Qingsong looked proud as he didn't dare to tell the truth. He was afraid that his father. Law would raise the price in the future. He took the gift and patted Li Qingsong's shoulder, saying, okay, this kid is quite righteous. Old lady, have some children's food and let's drink some. The future mother. Law glanced at Zhang Deshun and said, here's the whole bottle of wine for you, you don't know how to handle it. Chapter 9. Recognizing Godfather. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Kid, come in and let's have a drink. Zhang Deshun pulled Li Qingsong into the Zhang family. Zhang Deshun didn't expect this child to be so kind and righteous. After earning money, he didn't forget to give himself something, which added another point to his impression. In the yard, sunlight shines through the gaps in the leaves and forms mottled shadows on the ground. Zhang Deshun pulled a floor table and said, kid, sit down. Li Qingsong looked at everything very familiar, the dense grape trellis. As it was late autumn now, there were no more grapes left. I remember when he was dating his wife Zhang Wanju in his past life, his father. Law always asked him to take many grapes home. Li Qingsong couldn't help but burst into a silly smile. In his past life, his wife always said that he always brought vegetables home because his father. Law's yard was too big. In summer, he planted persimmons, scallions, and small peppers in the yard, and couldn't finish them all. At that time, Li Qingsong was too envious of his daughter. Law's large yard, so he always came to visit whenever he had something to do, helped weed, and took a lot of things with him when he left. The atmosphere of the Zhang family seemed a bit tense, as the mother. Law was busy in the kitchen, the aroma of oil was overflowing. Occasionally, she poked her head out and cautiously looked at Li Qingsong. At noon, the mother. Law brought out a plate of fried potato chips and placed it on a stone table in the yard. She forced a stiff smile on her face and said to Li Qingsong, come on, have some food. Her tone revealed a desire to send him away as soon as possible. Zhang Deshun, the father. Law, appeared much more enthusiastic. He opened the wine bottle brought by Li Qingsong, and a strong aroma of wine filled his nose. He poured 2 glasses of wine, handed one to Li Qingsong, and asked, do you drink alcohol? Li Qingsong took the wine glass and humbly said, just have a little less. He understood in his heart that this was not just a glass of wine, but also a test for Zhang Deshun. The two raised their glasses and collided, and Li Qingsong deliberately lowered his own glass to show respect. Zhang Deshun smiled and said, "Kid, okay, you're quite polite." His impression of Li Qingsong added to his heart. My mother-in-law reluctantly placed the stir-fried cabbage stewed tofu on the table, thinking to herself that this kid must have smelled it, right? It's been a month with potatoes and cabbage, but today I made tofu, which caught up with this kid. Li Qingsong took a bite of potato chips and praised, "Auntie, you're really good at cooking. This potato chip is really delicious." Li Qingsong saw his mother-in-law's intentions, so he didn't go to the plate of dishes with tofu. After hearing Li Qingsong's praise and actions, the mother-in-law's expression slightly softened. But she remained vigilant and kept an eye on Li Qingsong's every move. At this moment, second aunt, Zhang Wan, and little sister also walked out. They sat down at another table and began to enjoy stewed cabbage and tofu. Li Qingsong occasionally turned his head to look at Zhang Wan, his eyes filled with appreciation and liking. At that time, my wife had just entered junior high school and was in the prime of her youth. Unlike her charming beauty after marriage, she was really green and inexperienced. In his eyes, my wife had always been the most beautiful one. Zhang Deshun noticed Li Qingsong's actions and mistakenly thought he was interested in the second son of the Zhang family. He thought to himself, "This young man is quite discerning. Although the second one has a stubborn temper, he is indeed a capable and good girl. Kid, come on." Zhang Deshun raised his glass again. Li Qingsong took 2 sips and felt a bit dizzy. "Uncle, I can't drink anymore. I'm a bit dizzy." Lunch ended in an awkward and tense atmosphere, and Zhang Deshun brought out a pot of hot tea. "Kid, try this tea, but I haven't been willing to drink it. It's cheaper for you today, kid." The future mother-in-law glanced at her and said, "There's a bit of a mess, it's not enough for you to show off." Li Qingsong saw that the tea soup was red and determined that it must be black tea. He placed it at the tip of his nose and smelled it, giving it a strong tea aroma. He took a light sip and said, "This Taiguan yin has a mellow and fragrant taste, and it tastes like a dense and delicious tea." "Oh, you can do it, kid." Zhang Deshun didn't expect this kid to be young and be able to drink this tea in one sip. "Is this Taiguan yin? Isn't it easy for you, kid? At first glance, you have a lot of research on tea." Li Qingsong quickly waved his hand and said, "Hey, Uncle Zhang, dare not dare. It's just that I've had it a few times before." My mother-in-law pursed her lips and sat on the chair wiping the table. "This is a good tea given by my boss, this tea is very expensive." Li Qingsong pondered in his heart and suddenly remembered that it was around this time that Zhang Wan started dating her future brother-in-law. In her past life, her brother-in-law had already been the class monitor of a textile factory, and later became the workshop director all the way. However, her fate was not good, and she caught up with that big event. She spent 6 years squatting on the fence, and it was at that time that her wife's family began to decline. Zhang Deshun looked at the young man in front of him and couldn't help but marvel at his difficulty. He asked gently, "Qingsong, how many people in your family are there?" Li Qingsong straightened his waist and answered one by one, "There are 8 people in my family. My father is a laboratory technician at an oil factory and he is currently hospitalized due to illness. My mother has no job and sells popsicles at home. My older sister and second sister go to the countryside. My older brother is a loading and unloading worker at an oil factory. I am currently an unemployed youth and still in high school. There are also 3 younger sisters in middle school. My younger sister is still young and hasn't gone to school, so she stays at home." Zhang Deshun was shocked and said, "Oh my God. A laboratory technician. That person has a lot of knowledge. What education does your father have? I heard my dad say he went to junior high school." Li Qingsong felt anxious for a moment, almost mentioning that his boss had attended a private school that month was a taboo. My mother-in-law suddenly looked up, and he didn't expect this unattractive kid to have great knowledge at home. At that time, the whole country was in a state of waste waiting to be revitalized, and knowledgeable people would be popular wherever they went. My mother-in-law has had a difficult life since childhood, not even knowing a big character, so she has an inexplicable admiration for intellectuals. Oh my, kid, your Li Gu has knowledge. Zhang Deshun listened to Li Qingsong's answer and his impression of him deepened a bit. He looked at the young man in front of him, although life had given him many hardships, he had not yet bowed to fate. This courage and responsibility secretly impressed Zhang Deshun. He poured another cup of tea for Li Qingsong, then raised his own cup and sincerely said, Qingsong, you are so responsible at a young age. It's not easy. Come on, I'll toast you. Li Qingsong quickly raised his teacup and humbly said, Uncle, you're flattering me. If you don't mind, take me as your godson. Zhang Deshun nodded, feeling a burst of joy in his heart. He liked this child too much, dared to act and not bow down to fate. Okay, you will be my godson from old Zhang in the future, come and kowtow to Dad. Li Qingsong immediately lifted his clothes and knelt down, Dad, your son kowtowed to you. Godmother, be worshipped by your son. Dang. The mother-in-law's stern face suddenly showed a smile. Chapter 10. Oil Factory Wang Mazi. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the yard of the Zhang family, Li Qingsong took out the peanuts and melon seeds he had bought before from his pocket and respectfully handed them to his future father-in-law and mother-in-law, saying, Godfather and Godmother, this is a small gesture of filial piety to your two elders. Zhang Deshun smiled and took it, feeling a bit embarrassed. You child, what do you think you're doing? My mother-in-law's expression also softened a lot. She took the peanut seeds and said, Come on, come on. When you come home later, take some things with you. Li Qingsong ran into the room again and held a large handful of peanut seeds for his second aunt, wife Zhang Wan, and sister-in-law. He took the opportunity to gently touch Zhang Wan's hand and whispered, Sister, you eat. Zhang Wan's face turned slightly red, and she nodded slightly with a green expression before whispering, Thank you, brother. The sister-in-law smiled with a milky voice and said, Thank you, brother. Aunt Air's gaze at Li Qingsong was not quite right. She was not sure what kind of feeling it was, it felt strange. This simple touch and communication brought joy to Li Qingsong's heart. He dared not stay in the room for fear that his mother-in-law might misunderstand his ulterior motives, so he quickly went out to continue chatting with Zhang Deshun. The two of them chatted from noon until the afternoon, and it was almost dark. Li Qingsong stood up and said goodbye when he saw it was not early, Godfather, it's getting late. I'll go back first. Qingsong, take this tofu and scallions back and take care of your parents. Zhang Deshun's voice was full of warmth and care. Li Qingsong looked at the tofu and scallions in front of him, and a warm current surged in his heart. He knew that this was not just a thank-you gift, but also a recognition and encouragement from Zhang Deshun towards him. He took the tofu and scallions, bowed deeply, and said, Thank you, Godfather. I will definitely bring your heart to my parents. Zhang Deshun nodded and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. He patted Li Qingsong's shoulder and said, Good child, come often in the future. Dad, then I'm going home. Mom, you two should go back to your house. I'm leaving. She pushed the 2 or 8 bars back. Zhang Deshun also stood up and said with concern, Okay, ride your bike slowly on the road and pay attention to safety. My future mother-in-law waved and said, Kid, be careful on the road. Li Qingsong nodded and agreed, then pushed his bicycle out of the yard of the Zhang family. He was filled with joy and anticipation in his heart, knowing that his relationship with Zhang Wan had taken an important step. On the way back, Li Qingsong rode his bicycle, but he remembered every touch and communication with Zhang Wan in his heart. He secretly made up his mind to work hard and strive to win the recognition of the Zhang family as soon as possible, and marry Zhang Wan back home. Zhang Deshun's home is not too far from home. If you ride a bike, you can get home in less than 40 minutes. When Li Qingsong pushed his bicycle into his dilapidated yard, the afterglow of the sunset had gradually dissipated in the sky, replaced by a peaceful blue and black sky and scattered stars. He could see his mother Qin Shulan busy cutting vegetables under the eaves from a distance, while his younger sister Li Xiaoxiao squatted on the side, focused on playing Galahaha. Li Qingsong gently parked his bike and carefully removed the piece of tofu and the bundle of scallions from the handlebar. He walked into the room and placed these two ingredients on the table. Qin Shulan looked up and saw the tofu and scallions on the table, with a hint of surprise in her eyes. She put down the kitchen knife in her hand, walked over to carefully examine it, and then asked in confusion, "Qingsong, where do these things come from?" After hesitating for a moment, Li Qingsong finally chose a vague answer. "Mom, I work for an uncle who gave me a gift." He didn't tell the truth, afraid that his mother would know he was going to the market to sell things. His mother had always been timid, and his older brother Li Qinyong and Li Qingsong would go to the market every week. If he didn't take on this risk, the family would have been at a loss for a long time. Although Qin Shulan had some doubts, she did not delve deeper. She knows that her son has always been very sensible and won't do anything out of line. She nodded and said, "Then I'll cook cabbage with tofu. Today, I'll satisfy your cravings." As soon as the little girl heard about eating tofu, she jumped happily and said, "Yeah, eat tofu, eat tofu." Li Qingsong breathed a sigh of relief, then looked around and found that neither his elder brother nor his third sister were present. He asked curiously, "Mom, where did big brother and third sister go?" Qin Shulan continued to cut vegetables while answering, "Your older brother went to his brother's house and said he won't come back today. Third sister went to play at her classmate's house today and won't come back. Let's just have dinner together." A strong sense of unease suddenly surged in Li Qingsong's heart. He vividly remembers that in his past life, it was precisely because of today's drinking party that his elder brother Li Qinyong and his brothers caused a great disaster. The drunken conflict not only caused serious injuries to Wang Mazi, but also resulted in a lot of losses for the family. In the end, even Wu Jiangwo, the director of the oil factory's security department, lost his job as a result. The Wu Jiangwo family suffered a huge upheaval as a result, making life exceptionally difficult. Thinking of these, Li Qingsong could no longer sit still. He knew very well that the same thing could never happen again in this life. He must immediately find his elder brother and stop their foolish behavior. Li Qingsong hurriedly rode his bicycle and headed straight to the oil factory cafeteria. He knows that big brother and his team will be drinking there tonight. Along the way, he was very anxious and hated himself for not cycling fast enough. When he pushed open the door of the small cafeteria panting heavily, he saw his elder brother Li Qinyong and his brothers sitting around a table, drinking heavily. Li Qingsong didn't have time to think much and rushed over directly. "Big brother," he shouted loudly, "you can't drink like this anymore. Stop it." Li Qinyong and his brothers were all startled by Li Qingsong's sudden intrusion. They looked at Li Qingsong with an anxious face and couldn't react for a moment. "Qingsong, why are you here?" Li Qinyong asked in confusion, "What happened?" Li Qingsong took a deep breath and tried to calm his emotions. "Big brother, you can't continue drinking here," he said sincerely. "We're sick and we're calling you home." Li Qinyong looked at his younger brother in front of him and stared at him with big eyes, asking, "What's wrong with our mother? Speak up." Li Qin bravely stomped his foot, "You said, you're so anxious about me." Li Qinyong pulled Li Qingsong and prepared to go out. His mother Qin Shulan was the god of the family, and only with a mother could there be a home. As the eldest son of the family, he was more anxious than anyone else. "Hey, can you really keep your voice down? It's delaying my drinking, okay?" Wang Mazi, who was facing the table, turned his head and cursed, his words full of provocation. Look at your mother. The little brother next to Wang Mazi patted the table. The entire small cafeteria instantly quieted down, and all the diners looked at Wang Mazi. Wu Jiangwo tightly grabbed the wine glass in his hand and smashed it directly.